You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Good evening, Lubbock, Amarillo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, Midland, Odessa, Dallas, Fort Worth, over in El Paso, down in Houston, and anywhere else, inside or outside the great state of Texas, wherever you may be listening on this Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. Welcome into the Chad Hasty Show. Glad to have you with us on the program today. It's going to be a busy show. We've got Matt Rose with Lubbock Power and Light. He'll be joining us coming up at 5:35 this evening to answer those of you in Lubbock your questions about the whole move over to retail electric and competition and what that means. And the fact that you've got until, February 15th in order to choose a new energy provider. So we'll get into all the details, what it means for LP&L, what it means for you, what it means for those of you on LP&L, and exactly what all the deadlines are moving forward. So we'll get to that with Matt Rose coming up at 5:35. We've got quite a few questions that came in via the website and the KFYO Facebook page as well yesterday evening. So we'll get to your questions and more with Matt Rose coming up at 5:35. At 6:05, Cody Clark is a candidate running for SD 30. That's the Senate district where you had Drew Springer, who has decided to retire. And there's a lot of controversy in the SD 30 race within the Republican primary. Cody Clark, one of the candidates running, and we'll visit with him coming up at 6:05 this evening. We've also got a lot of news to get to today. It's going to be a very interesting evening as you have the Iowa caucus debate going on this evening, and then you also have the Trump town hall that'll be taking place tonight. Both of those are going to be going on roughly the same time, and if I had to guess, I'm going to go ahead and guess that more people will watch the Trump town hall. Not to be outdone, Chris Christie has announced that he's dropping out of the race. He's done. Not endorsing anybody, but he has officially dropped out of the race after deciding that he's wasted everybody's time and wasted a little bit of money as well. Chris Christie ending his long-shot presidential campaign, according to Politico, what could be a major boost to Nikki Haley's chances, not in Iowa, but in New Hampshire. Christie told the supporters in New Hampshire Wednesday, quote, "I would rather lose by telling the truth than lie in order to win." Okay. "It's clear to me tonight there is not a path for me to win the nomination, which is why I'm suspending my campaign." There was never a path for Chris Christie to win the nomination. The only reason he got into it was to badmouth Donald Trump. And on his way out, he badmouthed not only Donald Trump, but Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. And he's auditioning for a new role on either CNN or MSNBC or maybe News Nation. I don't know. But he's auditioning for his next gig, and that's really about it. He said, I'm sure he'd love to end up on Fox, but that's probably not going to happen. So Chris Christie is out. He's officially dropped out of the race. I'm guessing he will not be on the debate stage tonight. So you'll have you'll have Nikki Haley, you'll have Vivek Ramaswamy, you'll have Ron DeSantis, and I think that's about it on the debate stage tonight. And then for the town hall meeting, you'll have Donald Trump answering questions from Brett Baer and Martha McCallum. So we've got that to look forward to this evening. Some of the other news happening out there today, just before we got on the air, and maybe bigger news than Chris Christie dropping out in the world of sports, Nick Saban is retiring from Alabama. Yeah, so that has some people surprised. I think more people surprised and probably more people impacted by Nick Saban announcing that he's retiring than Chris Christie dropping out. That's probably the Nick Saban, the bigger news and the bigger shock and surprise to people as he's leaving Alabama, leaving college football, and then retiring. So a lot of coaches are looking forward to that and going, how much can I get paid in order not to interview with Alabama? So a payday for some college coaches out there. 1-800-687-0790. We want to hear from you today on like I said, a wide variety of issues. We've got quite a bit to get into. You can give us a call, 1-800-687-0790. You can text in at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can text in. When you do text in, let us know who you are and where you're texting from. That way we can give you the proper shout out whenever we do get to your text messages. So we've got all of that to get into on the program today. Also, there's a little bit of statewide news as well, including a little bit of Texas news. And Ted Cruz making a little bit of news earlier today, about an hour ago. Texas Tribune story, Ted Cruz under pressure to endorse Trump, says he's watching Iowa. Senator Ted Cruz, this from Patrick Svitek over at the Texas Tribune. Senator Ted Cruz said Wednesday he's watching to see what happens in the Iowa caucuses next week as he faces increasing pressure to back the frontrunner, Donald Trump, in his comeback bid. In a statement to the Tribune, Cruz said he has an immense amount of respect for the Iowa caucuses and their procedures. Of course, he won the Iowa caucuses when he ran against Trump 8 years ago. I was part of that process in 2016. I have a special appreciation for it, and I learned immediately how unpredictable it can be. The people of Iowa take their responsibility very seriously. I hope we can get through the process quickly and continue to go about the critical business of beating Joe Biden. Cruz reiterated the statement that the eventual GOP nominee will have his full support. Trump has long led in the polls in Iowa, though former Governor Ron DeSantis has gone all in on the state. Nikki Haley, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, is contending there on her way to the friendlier territory in New Hampshire. In recent weeks, Trump and his allies have grown increasingly frustrated with Cruz's neutrality. Cruz has maintained his neutral stance in the Republican primary for months, calling himself Switzerland when asked about it at the Texas Tribune Festival last fall. Earlier in 2023, he said he saw a two-man race between Trump and DeSantis, whose political operation included several former Cruz staffers. Trump has used his social media platform Truth Social to target Cruz multiple times in recent weeks. Early in December, Troop taunted Cruz, another holdout, Josh Hawley out of Missouri, over their re-election campaigns last year, saying Democrats want to beat them and they must be very careful. Stranger things have happened. Hawley endorsed Trump days later. And I've seen some of the supposed criticism from Trump. Get over it. Cruz will endorse when Cruz wants to, and no one cares. There's nobody out there right now, in my opinion. Again, this goes back to what we got into a little bit yesterday about overall endorsements. Not that many people care about endorsements. They just don't. Very few people are swayed, I think, by some of these endorsements. Now, maybe in a close race, maybe if people haven't heard of one of these candidates, maybe if it was a close primary, then you would have some people who got excited about an endorsement. But overall, they don't matter. I don't know of anyone who is just waiting to hear who Ted Cruz is going to endorse. I don't know of anyone like that. Chip Roy has endorsed Ron DeSantis, And quite frankly, and I like Chip Roy. We've had Chip Roy on this show multiple times. I don't know of anybody who cares that Chip Roy has endorsed Ron DeSantis. I haven't heard of anyone who has been swayed over to Ron DeSantis' side just because you had Chip Roy endorse him. I haven't heard that from anybody. So again, sometimes these endorsements, I think they're overhyped, they're overplayed, and a lot of it's just ego. A lot of it's just ego. The ego coming from the endorser. Ego from those who want the endorsement. Now, of course, every politician wants as many endorsements as possible. But if you're Trump, you're going to win the nomination. You don't need Cruz's endorsement. You don't need anybody's endorsement. As long as the Republicans line up behind the eventual nominee, which will be Trump, that's really all anyone should care about. It really is. It's really all anyone should care about. And we're going to see some Republicans who don't line up behind Trump, and shame on them. You're going to see people like Mitt Romney. You're going to see probably some other Republicans who just can't do it. They just can't do it. And so, again, those are the Republicans I'm going to have a problem with, are the Republicans who don't line up behind the eventual nominee, who will be Donald Trump. Linda in Lubbock weighed in. She said on Hannity, they played a recording that was apparently a hot mic by Chris Christie before he announced his withdrawal. It was very interesting and hateful, to say the least. Well, that's Chris Christie. The guy, it doesn't seem like a pleasant guy. And again, there are times where I want to like Chris Christie, but then there are just times where he comes across as a jackass, and he's going to stay that way. And he's blasting Nikki Haley for dropping $68 million. He's blasting Ron DeSantis for dropping millions and millions of dollars as well. And this hot mic, which, by the way, I don't think it was a hot mic. I think everybody knew that the microphone was on. I think everybody knew the microphone was on. It would surprise me with the audio that lasted that long, and then at the very end, it cuts out right before they start talking about whether or not Ron DeSantis is going to drop out. It almost, to me, sounds like it's they knew the mic was on, and then they edited it at the very end. That they didn't want to go too deep into what Ron DeSantis' plans are, even though Chris Christie says that Ron DeSantis reached out to him. And then you hear one of the interviewers say, well, Ron DeSantis is probably going to drop out. And Chris Christie starts speaking, and then the audio just abruptly stops. So I'm thinking there's a little bit more to that. I think Chris Christie knew exactly what he was doing with the audio, and I think the people recording it, I think they knew exactly what they were doing as well. And again, Chris Christie's just being Chris Christie. He's taking swipes at Nikki Haley. He's taking swipes at Ron DeSantis for no reason at all, other than the guy is a little bit bitter that he didn't gain any traction anywhere. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and much more here on the Chad Hasty Show.
Train I ride, 16 coaches long.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
I answered the call. Together, we fought for our nation and its people. And even though I no longer wear the uniform, I am still a Marine. My service has come full circle. I will continue to support my country and my community. Then, And now, Semper Fidelis remains my promise. Always faithful, always Marine.
Jerry Reynolds joined me and Kevin McCarthy for the Car Pro Show Saturday mornings at 11 on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
All right, welcome back to the Chad HD Show. Couple of election updates for you as well today. We've got a couple of candidates who have announced they are running for city council in Lubbock. David Glasheen running for District 3 Lubbock City Council. Made that announcement earlier today. And then Mark McBrayer is running for mayor. He currently serves as the District 3 city councilman. He announced today that he was going to run for Lubbock mayor. Said, I deeply care about Lubbock and the people who call it home, McBrayer said. So I've decided to run for mayor. Serving on the city council has taught me that a good leader must have a listening ear and trust earned by hearing first, then standing up for what is most important to the citizens and taxpayers. So McBrayer says described his service on the city council as being grounded in Lubbock's values, focused on the future. Said he's worked hard to build trust by promoting greater transparency and accountability at City Hall, consistently voted to keep taxes low and to control debt while staying focused on citizens' priorities. McBrayer said Lubbock will continue to grow and more people discover it's a great place to live, work, raise a family. Emphasizes his commitment to reducing regulations on businesses and bringing good business with good-paying jobs to the hub city. So you've got right now the candidates who have at least announced that they're running. I may be missing one or two. When you have an open seat like you do in Lubbock, it's you get a lot of people who toss their head into the ring. But you have Mark McBrayer, who's announced, Steve Massingale. So you got two Lubbock City Council members, current Lubbock City Council members who are running for mayor. Steven Sanders, who's run multiple times, and he's reached out to the show. He wants to come on and talk about his campaign, which we will have him on soon. And you have community organizer Adam Hernandez, who's running. So those so far are the candidates running for mayor in Lubbock. Glasheen, I think as of right now, he's the only candidate announced for District 3. So later on in the week, we'll get you a full list of candidates who have picked up packets and are looking at running for Lubbock City Council and mayor. Important positions, as we talked about yesterday with the mayor of Dallas. City councils matter, mayor matters. People need to pay attention to these local races, not just the state rep races and state senator races and the primaries that we have. People need to pay attention to all of it. That's for sure. 1-800-687-0790. Greg Abbott, story out of the Tribune today. Greg Abbott's going to use $19 million that he raised last year to target anti-voucher Republicans. Governor Abbott raising a record $19 million over the last 6 months, money that he intends to use towards his crusade to oust the anti-school choice Texas House Republicans. Of course, in the story, they put anti-voucher. Abbott's campaign announced the sum on Wednesday, adding that he also has $38 million cash on hand across 2 political accounts. He's got a big war chest. Well, with the primary elections just around the corner, Abbott has the resources needed to back strong conservative candidates who support his bold agenda to keep Texas the greatest state in the nation, including expanding school choice for all Texas families and students. Abbott campaign manager Kim Snyder said in a statement. The $19 billion is by far the most Abbott, already a fundraising juggernaut in a league of his own, has raised in the July to December period following a regular legislative session. After Abbott raised $13 million into his main political committee, Texans for Greg Abbott, another $6 million into a lesser used account. News release from Abbott's campaign initially only gave the cash on hand figure for the lesser used account, but Abbott's spokesperson clarified afterwards that he got $6 million in new money over the 6-month period. If Abbott's going to roll out $19 million, that's a heck of a figure. Abbott has been criticized in the past for not divvying out some dough when it comes to Republican reelection. You've seen in the past other governors, lieutenant governors, definitely speakers who have come out and given candidates a little bit of campaign cash. They faced tough races. Now the governor going to put a little bit of money behind it, which in some of these campaigns that's going to be a very big deal. So the governor throwing $19 million behind the candidates who want school choice. Those who are against school choice, they're going to be facing a little bit of a fundraising juggernaut when it comes to Abbott and some of these other Republicans who are running. When we come back, Matt Rose with LP&L. We'll talk about the transition to a retail electric market and what that means for those of you in Lubbock on LP&L.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. You can always find people who are helping. Thank you to all the first responders who put their lives in danger to help us when my brothers and sisters need them. We look out for the helpers because they look out for us. Thank you, first responders! Thank you, first responders!
Help us help first responders in your community today. Go to firstrcf.org to learn more.
To battle is to fight, to struggle, to overcome. And ultimately, for the Marine Corps, it means to win. There is no alternative. It's not just a statement of intent. It's a promise to our nation. A promise kept for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
News and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. You're listening to The Chad Hasty Show.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. In Lubbock, those of you on LP&L, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that you're about to have to choose, or, well, right now you can choose a new energy provider, and you've got until February 15th as one of the deadlines, but we'll kind of get into that too. But you've got until next month to choose a new energy provider. What does this mean? What's going on? What is the retail electric market? And we've got a lot of questions that were sent in that we'll get to. We've got LP&L's Matt Rose in studio. Matt, thanks for stopping by. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Always nice to come in.
So I guess overall, just kind of set the table for us. For those who are on LP&L services right now in Lubbock, what has to happen and by when?
So the shopping window opened up January 5th. And so you will have 6 weeks. So you'll have, like you said, until February 15th in order to choose your new provider. However you go about that process. We've been out there educating folks, did all of the 100 or so talks to groups over the last few months. And so it's all been about there's several ways to do it, but you got to get it done by February 15th, because on February 16th, we'll close it down, spend a couple of weeks making sure everybody's connected to their chosen providers correctly and all that works well. And then also those that haven't chosen, we need to go through and employ that random selection process so that they get defaulted to one of the 3 default providers in the city.
Okay, so if people don't choose by the 15th, they're going to get defaulted to one of the 3
Right.
That are out there. What happens at that point? Are they stuck on that for a year?
Nope. So what happens then is that they will. So for everybody, right? So now you get to March 4th, and that's when the transition begins. Everybody's either chosen their provider or we've gotten them randomly assigned to one. And if you get randomly assigned to a default provider, this is a one-time process to make sure folks don't fall through the cracks. So you're going to land with Reliant, TXU, or Octopus. They were chosen through a public bid process at the city. And if you've got questions about how that process was gone through, we can go through that, or I can address it later. But basically, those are the 3 ones that were selected. They'll take you on for a 90-day term. They'll give you a rate that's right the middle of the market. So if you do nothing, you're going to land with a reputable provider, and you're going to have just middle of the market rates. At the end of 90 days, if you've not jumped out and chosen your own provider, you'll roll over and become a more permanent customer of that utility or of that provider. And what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to reach out during that 90-day period for all those folks that were defaulted to them and really work hard to try to lock them into contracts. And why that's important and why that's a good thing is that if you're one of these customers, after that 90 days, you're going to go on a month-by-month rate. It's going to be the same process for somebody that in the future who has a contract that does not re-sign that contract. You roll over to their month-to-month rate, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but you want to have a locked-in rate as much as you can, because you don't want to go into the summer months and have a rate that's going to escalate even by a couple of tenths of a cent, because you know that you're going to be using twice as much. You don't want your rate to go up. So that's going to be the process. When we get to March, starting on March 4th, when you naturally get your City of Lubbock utilities bill during that month, you'll receive a finalized out section from LP&L on that city utility bill. And then starting in April, you'll get your bill from your chosen provider going forward. And then everybody will continue to go through City of Lubbock Utilities to pay their water, stormwater, solid waste, what's the stormwater, solid waste, wastewater.
Yeah, runoff. So right now on the LP&L bill, for those who have LP&L, you get the city utilities, you get everything on one bill.
Right.
When the new bill comes out, will the LP&L logo be on it? Or are we going to see a new city utility logo?
No, everything stays the same with City of Lubbock Utilities. Look, that was, for the longest time, every one of your city utilities has come out on one bill, right? It's so that you don't get 5 separate bills. It's all sorts of reasons that are good reasons that everything comes on one bill. Since 2017, City of Lubbock Utilities has been the logo on that bill. You've gone to that building to pay. You go to cityoflubbockutilities.com. All of that stays the same. Basically now for everyone in Lubbock, whether you're on spec or you're in LP&L's territory, you now get your electric bill separately. If you're on spec, you get your electric bill from spec, and you pay your city services over here. Now, people, you chose your provider, Reliant, TXU, or Octopus, or whoever it might be. You get your bill from them. You pay your 4 city services over here. So still got to collect for the water and those other services. LP&L does not do those. We don't have any control over those. Those are separate from us, but they're still all going to come on that one city utility bill.
So after people get to choose the new energy provider, I've seen this question pop up, and I've seen another, so I'll ask you both. What happens with LP&L? Is LP&L going away? And 2, can people buy energy and have LP&L as their service provider?
So we will not be in the power sales business anymore. LP&L is going to be solely a poles and wires company, a transmission distribution utility. So we are now going to be exactly like Encore, CenterPoint, and AEP across the state in the competitive market. no matter where you are in the state of Texas, if you're in the competitive market, there's going to be one entity that owns the poles and the wires. And it only makes sense because you don't need 30 different companies building a spider web of lines out through your city out to their customers. And if you decide that you want to switch from company A to company B, you don't want to wait 2 years for them to build a line to your house, right?
Right.
So it's one consolidated system that we will run and we will manage, and you pick your provider, and your electricity simply runs over our wires to get to your home. And no matter where you are in the state, as I say, somebody's going to perform that function. And everybody, you can look at it this way. No matter who your provider is, if you are on South Plains Electric Cooperative, if you're on LP&L today, if you've been in Dallas or Houston for the last 20 years picking your provider, your bill is going to be 1/3 delivery, 2/3 power. Today, everything that we do is made up in that 1/3 of our delivery rate, and the other 2/3 is just what it costs us to make or buy power for customers. What this process is you're going out and deciding who you want to buy your power from going forward, and then it just runs over our line. So you're not paying twice. We're not double dipping. I've seen this middleman term being thrown around a lot, and I don't really truly understand it because, again, that's the way this runs. You know, there's no middleman. Nobody's buying from us. They're buying their power from their own power plants, their own sources throughout the state. We've shut down the power plants, and we're not buying any more power starting next month.
And this question kind of delves into that. This was a question submitted yesterday on KFYO.com. Who calculated the amount to pay LP&L each month? If you calculate the amount to pay for electricity from a broker, then LP&L for the TDU charge.
Yep.
I'm paying at least 1/3 higher on my bill each month. How was it determined it's worth the 0.0644 per kilowatt hour?
Yes. So right now today, let's take our standard residential customer, which is the vast majority of our residential customers. Your base rate is 3.381 cents on your bill today. And your cost of power right now is, I think, a little over 10 cents, right? But you also have on that bill a 5% franchise fee. That is what it costs us that we get charged by the city to put our poles and wires and infrastructure in the right of way. Anybody that's in that right of way has to pay that 5% franchise fee, whether it be AT&T or be us or whomever. So that 5% franchise fee, it's got to get rolled up into that rate of ours. So you add that in. And then you take your $8.07 set meter fee. You roll that in. And so when you add both of those components together on top of what our cost is to deliver, basically maintain the system, that gets you to 5.4 cents. If you look at Encore in Midland, who's performing this role like us, and they're the low-cost delivery system in the state in the competitive market, they're charging 5.01 cents. So we're right there with them. Now, we have basically a 1 penny adder. It's a transition charge on top of that 5.4 cents, which gets it to that 6.442 cents. And what that is that for the next couple of years, we have to pay off the debt that we incurred to make this move. We shut down our entire business and got completely out of it, including having to buy out that power contract, that 25-year power contract. So all of these things added together, all of that stranded debt, there has to be a mechanism so that we recoup that money as we make this transition. Also, we've had to put in millions of dollars worth of computer equipment in order to have this seamless interaction so that when you pick a provider, you go to it and it's boom. Everybody else put these computer systems in over the last 20 years. Everybody that's in the competitive market serving those 10 million Texans today had that 2 to 3 year transition charge when they came into the market in 2002. We're just doing it today. So when we get to the end of this 2-year run of being in the market, this first 2 years, that penny starts sliding off because our true cost is that 5.4 cents to deliver. And that fits right into that 1/3, 2/3 component because most of these rates you're seeing in the market out there are 15 to 16 cents all in.
All right, let's go ahead and take the break. When we come back, we've got more questions that have come in on the KFYO.com. We'll get to those questions and more with Matt Rose with LP&L.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans, have you downloaded the VA Health and Benefits mobile app? It makes it easy to manage your health care and benefits. In a newer feature, the app lets you review your VA prescriptions. Download the app on your iPhone or the Google App Store, or wherever you get your mobile apps. That's the VA Health and Benefits mobile app.
There will be one less birthday party to celebrate today. One less coffee date with a friend today. One less family dinner today. Because there will be one less motorcycle rider on the road today. On average, a motorcyclist is killed on Texas roads every day. When you're behind the wheel, obey the speed limit and be extra careful at intersections. Let's start turning that one less into one more. Please share the road and look twice for motorcycles. There's a life riding on it. A message from TxDOT.
First News Weekend, Saturday mornings at 5 on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO.
All right, we're back on the Chad HT Show. We've got Matt Rose with LP&L. We're probably going to do this again because between now and February 15th, there's still going to be a lot of questions and everything else. But, Matt, one of the questions that does keep popping up is the rate. A lot of people are seeing rates that are maybe much higher on, on different websites than what the LP&L rate is right now. One, what is the LP&L rate right now? And why are prices so much higher when they're looking at these companies?
You know, in all of these talks that I gave, I told these groups that when we get time to choose, I'll put our historical rates that matter up on the website. Matter meaning the last 3 years. I mean, you go back beyond that, I don't know that it's really, you get to COVID, you get before COVID, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, too, whether it's us, whether it's new provider, natural gas pricing drives the cost in the market, period, point blank, end stop. That's what, if power prices go up, it's correlated to natural gas pricing going up. And so today, our customers are paying all in 14.1 cents. Again, as we talked about before the break, you got to add in the set meter fee and you got to add in the 5% franchise fee into the power cost and into the delivery fee. So that's where they are today. If you go back 3 years, I will tell you, 3 years ago, our rate was right at 14 cents. 2 years ago, our all-in rate was at 17.5 cents. And then this past year, today, your rate is 14.1 cents. This is the last month that we're in this market. This is the last month we're buying power for customers. But as we're doing this, our internal finance folks and our external financial consultants and energy consultants are looking at the power pricing in the market this summer because we would be buying power for customers this summer if we were staying put as their provider. And I can tell you that our projections right now is that our rate this summer set June 1st would be 17 to 17.5 cents.
So the prices that people are seeing online for their potential...
They're looking forward.
Okay.
Your rate right now at LP&L is your winter rate. It's the one that we set October 1st with that power factor. And it's accounting for these winter months. Again, if we were staying in this market come May to June, your rate would be going to 17 to 17.5 because, to get in the weeds for a little bit, last summer when we were buying power for our customers, we were buying it at about $80 to $90 a megawatt hour in the open market and with our different contracts. And we look at our price for power this summer and it's about $130 per megawatt hour. And that's going to cause all these rates to go up. So it really is more apples to apples if you compare the fact that our summer rate and going forward would have been that 17 cents. The price in the market is going to go up and down. It's going to fluctuate every single day based off natural gas pricing. As a municipal utility, we set your power factor twice a year, October 1st and June 1st. You need to think about these contracts in the same way. You're basically setting your power factor for the next 6 months or 12 months or 24 months and locking that in so you've got a set rate going forward.
All right, we've got, let me do some rapid questions for you. Is it true that at least some of the options want a deposit or a connection fee or something along those lines? Since we have to make a switch, that seems messed up.
Deposit, yes. These are new providers that you are signing up for. If today you moved from Central Lubbock to Southwest Lubbock and got on spec, they charge you a deposit and vice versa. Now, there are a bunch of different ways that you can get your deposits reduced or removed, and I'm already hearing customers having success doing that. So you need to ask your provider, what's your deposit policy? Not only how much is it, but how long before you return that deposit, and how do I go about getting that deposit waived if you want to? I know like TXU, I think it's folks over 55, there's no deposit, right? There's ways to get out of this, and so explore those options. I can't give you a list because each one's going to be independent, but ask them how to get your deposit waived.
Is it true 99% of customers will actually be paying more for energy if they use less than 1,000 kilowatt hours?
No, you need to ask or make sure that there's not minimum or maximum usage fees. When you go sometimes with these smaller providers that you may not have heard of as much, and they've got kind of the lowest in the market rates, a lot of times they'll compensate that by having some level of minimum usage fee or rate if you don't use enough. So what you're going to want to look at is making sure there's none of that kind of external stuff, and you just lock in your rate. But as I said a minute ago, your rate with LP&L has gone from 14 to 18 cents, and that's that band over the last 3 years. And if we were in the market this summer, we'd be back at that 17-cent range. And even the big guys, Octopus, Reliant, TXU, they're all coming in the 16-cent range. So look, you're going to pay more or less depending on who you choose. House to house, everybody's going to have a different rate. But every single provider's required to offer all the rates to all the customers.
Real quick, this was from a texter. In case of a tornado or other natural disaster, does LP&L restore the infrastructure?
Yeah, our guys are still going to be the ones out there maintaining the reliability on the system, not just growing it out for our growing city, but if a car runs into a pole, if a tree falls into a line, if a line breaks, our guys are going to fix it as they've done today. That's part of that maintenance and delivery charge that you're paying for. Every single thing, responsibility with the infrastructure still lays on us.
How can people get more information about all of this?
First and foremost, LPNL.com. But go through LPNL.com and go to thepowertochoose.org. Play around with this. I will just tell you this right now. We've already had over 5,000 people sign up with providers as of end of day Monday, and I'll update that come next week. But folks are out there doing this. They're signing up. So go to the website, research it, start calling these folks, and, come out to one of these shopping fairs, January 22nd or 23rd, February 10th.
All right, Matt Rose, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be right back on the Chad Hasty Show.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media. Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. Just real quickly, before we get to our next guest, I want to thank Matt Rose, who joined us here on the program and was speaking to the Lubbock audience, Lubbock listeners, about the retail power and the retail power market. That people are having to choose now. We had one texter and also someone on the app chat who was asking about solar panels and what happens if you've got solar panels tied into LP&L. What's going to happen? Matt Rose, I texted him and he said on the chart on the LP&L website, list all the providers and what rate classes they serve, residential and business, and they have a column for all those who offer solar rates, and then customers need to ask for what benefit can be offered through their power rate and what the company's solar buyback rate is in case they overproduce. So if you have solar panels, you have to do a little bit of extra digging, a little bit extra homework. But yes, you will be able to use the solar panels with other companies that are out there. Now we switch gears and we go back into the political realm of what's going on in our state. Of course, we've got now, 55 days until the Texas primary. And one of the more interesting races developing in the state right now is the Republican nomination for Texas Senate District 30, in which you've got a handful of candidates who are running to replace the retiring Drew Springer, great friend of the program. And joining us on the phones right now, just one of the Republican candidates for Texas Senate District 30, Cody Clark, joining us here on the Chad Hasty Show. Cody, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Man, I appreciate you having me on, Chad. I'm doing actually good. I had a really good day today.
Good, very good. Before we get into some of the controversy not around you, but around others in Texas Senate District 30, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, and why you decided to run.
Right. So I kind of believe that politics is too important to leave it up to politicians alone. So the 5-second information on me is I'm a police officer by trade. I worked out of the city of Denton for 9 years full-time. Then I did another 9 years as a reserve officer, became our lieutenant, ultimately our treasurer for the unit. And the reason why I'm not in law enforcement anymore is my wife and I actually started a small company from level zero in Aubrey, Texas. And what we do is we take care of people with special needs. So we take care of where they live actually in the community, and then we meet their medical and therapeutic needs, whether it's OT, PT, speech, audiology. We meet those needs for them just like you would have those needs met for you, and we do that on their behalf in the community. So we serve about 150 or so individuals. We have about 35 group homes or so, and with the rest of the remaining clients being in foster care or what we call host home settings. And the reason why it makes sense for us to run, we never dreamed we'd be a politician, kind of like I was saying, but we work intimately since the last 10 years or so. It's kind of developed into not working so much with the individuals themselves, but working on their behalf in the big total picture for people with intellectual disabilities and special needs. So we work with people like our Senator, Drew Springer, our current guy who's not going to run for re-election, and other representatives up here locally, but also primarily at the Capitol itself. So whether it's testifying before Senate Finance hearing or House Appropriations, or our kind of bread and butter is the Health and Human Services Commission. Mm-hmm. We're doing a lot of the work that you might expect your representative or legislative official to at least be thinking about, hopefully actually doing, which is working on substantive legislation for Texans, in our case, the special needs individuals. And that's why it kind of made sense when he's not running for re-election for us to step up and say, well, we've been doing it for this segment of our society. I think we can leverage our context over the last several years and do it for the constituency as a whole. And that's how that kind of makes sense.
All right. Well, very good. Well, we'll get to just some of your other policies that you'd like to see done, and some of the other issues that you'd like to get into here in a little bit. But you reached out to me last week after you had filed, I guess, a complaint with the Texas Rangers, correct, about one of your political opponents, one of your opponents who, by the way, has been endorsed by many folks in the Republican Party in Texas, including the lieutenant governor has endorsed your opponent. But there's controversy because it doesn't appear as though, at least according to you and others, that this candidate actually lives in the district, correct?
That's exactly right. So the whole thing stems from my actual opponent, Brent Hagenbu, his actions, or maybe inactions, in a timely manner. The man appears to live in Senate District 12. That's where his homesteaded address was. That's something I actually sought out. When I entered this race, people began to tell me about it. And so it's nothing I found or dirt that I dug up or mudslinging of any kind or trying to muddy the waters. This was widely known. It is widely known. And so he's tried to help himself by saying that he's gotten a corporate lease for an apartment from himself that would have made him eligible for the election. The problem with that is it just magically appeared out of nowhere. So also the problem with that is we actually have a requirement. It was actually passed by Senator Paul Betancourt, who was a Texas senator, who oddly enough has also endorsed Brent. But he wrote a law, and it passed, that said you cannot reside in a commercial property. It's also illegal locally. You're not allowed to do that. So we're having that I filed not only a criminal case with the Texas Rangers themselves, but also an administrative challenge to the state Republican Party chair to have them just basically administratively declare him ineligible, which they can do, but they just do not do in function. So it's kind of a confusing thing. It's entirely Brent's fault for that. Nobody is more responsible for, quite frankly, the rush that he came in to file, and so we're sorting that out in court. It should be sorted out here very soon.
How do you think this is going to go down? Because those who, at least I've seen, who have spoken about this, and longtime political watchers say it's pretty rare, actually, for the residency issues to actually throw somebody off the ballot.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's what we've read too, and we wouldn't continue to push it if we didn't think this was one of the exceptions to those cases. So typically how it happens is an individual gets elected to office, they live in the district. Then they move upward and outward in life, and they end up moving out of the district, but they always maintain that property, that residence in the district. And what Texas election code is allowed to do through precedent is to say, if you have the intent to return back to the district, back to that property that you have always owned, that they'll allow you to run for that office. Well, the problem with that is not Brent's situation at all. He has never resided in the district until after he filed to be a candidate in the district. So you have to have been here for a year. That's not a campaign tactic, as he likes to spin it, or as Alan Blackmore likes to spin it. It is actually state constitutional law. So it has nothing to do with my opinion on it. It's there in black and white, and it's only about 2 sentences long. So anyone can understand it.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of your, some of your policies and what you would like to do. Why you've got a number of candidates who are running in this primary.
Yes.
What separates you from everybody else? Why are you the choice that voters need to pick?
Yeah, exactly. Well, fundamentally, one, I'm eligible. The second reason is I was a police officer by trade, so I have the integrity required to run for elected office. The third thing is I work on the behalf of the least of us. So the reason why that is important is our 9-to-5 job, what I do every single day, what I do when our legislature is in session. The only thing that I am paid to do is advocate for Texans on substantive legislation. So I'm not distracted by my 9-to-5 job. Quite frankly, some of my competitors in this race, they do very important work. They do substantive, important work. And I need them to keep doing that. I need one of them's an attorney. I need him to work on conservative causes as an attorney. One's an ER physician. I actually need her to work in her clinic. And how do you think it's capable that they would be able to be down in Austin, like this last legislative with the subsequent special sessions, 240 or something days, I believe.
Yeah.
Are they going to be pulled away from that? Are they going to be able to serve 11 counties of people with 1 million total individuals in those counties? I think they're going to be distracted. And I think you see some of that distraction magnified with our current legislature. You have all these individuals who are in office, but they're not fully engaged. They're asleep at the wheel. I have the opportunity to be fully engaged 100% of the time, whether it's 6 months, 1 year, 5 years. I can do that 100% of the time because I'm not worried about how am I going to pay for my light bill back at home. The other thing about it is we work on that substantive legislation. So when our legislature comes to an impasse and they talk about having difficulty funding these programs, we actually have come together and presented actionable plans to carve out $300, $400, $500 million out of our existing health and human services budget so that it can just be more efficiently used and allocated. Now, whether that's for people like special needs, like we talk about all the time, or for mental health, or for physical beds for crisis placement, we have actually built out that plan. It's 2 years long. We presented to our legislative officials who have had about zero interest in it, quite frankly. And then we also went through the Health and Human Services Agency itself, so the actual employees, directors, and executive commissioners of those agencies, and submitted that plan as well. They've also had pushback on that. So what we find is we begged and pleaded and asked. Nobody seems interested in doing anything about it, even when it saves hundreds of millions of dollars. So we felt compelled to do it ourselves.
Visit with Cody Clark, who's running for the Republican nomination there in SD 30. When it comes to an issue like school choice, obviously has been a big fight among lawmakers for numerous sessions. Where do you come down on that issue?
So I come down on an issue like this. I am absolutely ready for parents to be the primary decision maker for their children in all matters, not just educational matters. But what I'm concerned about it, and what my constituents are concerned about in our more rural areas of our county, of our district, are that their local ISD is going to be hollowed out by the funding being moved to different ISDs. So the things I like about it are the parental choice and making sure that they determine, not the state, not anybody else, but they determine the educational needs of their child. The thing I like about it is free market concepts, like if an underperforming school is not doing what they need to be doing, that you can take your child and the money that follows with them to another performing school. And if that underperforming school doesn't step it up, then they're going to place themselves out of the market. But what I'm concerned about is what I hear from my constituents. So I'm ready to vote for that. I'm ready to pass that right now, assuming that it does not hollow out our rural ISDs.
The last plan that was passed by the Senate, did you think that was good, bad, still looking at it? How did you feel about the last Senate plan that ultimately did not pass in the House but was approved in the Senate?
Right. The fundamental thing I think about it, the reason why I think we gavelled out without it, is because it didn't quite meet all the stipulations required, like what I just articulated. So present us a plan that makes sense, that doesn't hollow out our rural communities. I think it'll go through.
Okay. And then what would you say would be one of the other big issues that you would focus on if elected in SD 30?
I think we need to restore the confidence in our elections themselves. So to protect our elections, whether that's restoring felony penalties or enacting civil penalties for election code violations, it kind of echoes the problems that we're having actually in the Senate District 30 race. We need to make sure that we have fair and free elections, that we have confidence restored in those. So whether that's through hand ballot counting, single day voting, whatever it is to restore the confidence in our voting system, I'm for. Even ideas such as disconnecting our machines that count those ballots from the internet from themselves so they're less susceptible to be hacked. Things like that are what I'm interested in, and just making sure that our constituents, our voters in Texas, that our voice is heard and it's accurate.
Cody Clark, candidate for the Republican nomination in Senate District 30. A pleasure visiting with you. Tell folks where your website is and how they can get more information on you and your campaign.
Absolutely, and I appreciate your time taking this opportunity. It's not lost on me. So my website is www.clark4, and that's FOR, office.com. You can also reach me at Cody@clark4office.com. And I just wanted to add one last thing to my opponents that this resonates with. One of them particularly preaches about his Christianity. You need to read up on Leviticus 19:11. Ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. You need to make sure you're reading on that, not skipping that part.
Cody Clark, Republican candidate for SD 30. We'll get you on again as the primary continues. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Chad. Have a good day.
You too. That's Cody Clark. You can follow him also on X at Clark4in Texas. That's where he's at on social media. We'll be right back on the Chad Hasty Show.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Speeding tickets aren't cheap, and they can make your insurance rates go up too. So if you don't remember anything else from this commercial, remember this: slow down or pay up. Also, if law enforcement pulls you over for speeding, they'll check your license and registration. So be ready for that. Basically, if you ever wonder if speeding is worth it, the answer is pretty obvious. No way. Speeding is dangerous and expensive, so slow down or pay up. Be safe, drive smart. A message from TxDOT.
95.1 and 790 KFYO.
Think it's time for a change. You may get disgusted, start thinking that I'm strange. Yeah, kids are going.
All right, welcome back to the Chad HD Show. Appreciate everybody tuning in, being out there, texting in as well. You can send in your thoughts on the text line 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. And as always, you can weigh in on any of the topics that we've gotten into today. Thanks again to Cody Clark for joining us here on the program and letting us know a little bit about him and his campaign for SD30. Tomorrow on the show, State Representative Dustin Burrows will join us at 5:35. Mackenzie DeLulo, she's not running for anything, but she'll give us a wrap on some of the statewide news tomorrow at about 6:05. So again, Burrows tomorrow, talking about his reelection campaign at 5:35 p.m. He's gotten a lot of endorsements lately from different organizations and groups, so I'm sure he's pretty happy about that. And we'll visit with him about his reelection campaign tomorrow here on the program. On Friday, we're going to visit with some folks with the RNC, give you a little bit of behind-the-scenes happenings in Iowa and the Iowa caucuses. So that should be something pretty interesting to hear about. How about this story? This is from the HoustonLanding.org website. It's a Houston Landing. They're another one of these nonprofit news groups that they do skew to the left, but they've accidentally shown one of the big issues going on with illegal immigration. A Houston legal service group keeps getting court notices for immigrants, but they can't be found. No. That's shocking. The notices to appear in court arrive at immigration lawyer Liza Garcia's office. Catholic Charities, almost every month, she reaches for the names in the organization's records, but usually confirms what she already suspects: the person's not a client. So she reports these notices to relevant immigration authorities, hopes the person knows how to call or check online for their court date. Otherwise, they could be deported. No, they won't be. They won't be. Well, it's difficult when you're on our side of it. There are folks who we really want to help, but we can't reach out to them because we don't have their phone numbers. As authorities process record crossings at the border in December, an immigration court backlog reached an all-time high. A missed notice to appear is a small error within an increasingly winding immigration system that can have serious consequences on an immigrant's case, which becomes harder to win if issued an order for removal for failing to appear, which they're hardly ever. So what they're basically admitting in this story from Houston Landing is that all these folks who are coming across, well, they're given court dates. That's what you hear from the Biden administration. They're told to appear in court. They can't find any of these folks. Again, it's catch and release, as we've seen so many times. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and more on the Chad HD Show.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Well, howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder cattle auction imported prices steady to $25 higher. Cattle futures mixed. February live cattle futures down 3 cents, close at $170.75. Feeder cattle futures up 85 cents to close at $224.62. March cotton futures down half a point, close at 80.18. March wheat futures down 3 pennies, close at 6.24 a bushel. March corn steady at 4.59. In January, soybean futures down 13 cents, close at $12.28 a bushel. January soybean meal futures down $4.70. closed at $361.30 per ton. January Class C milk futures down a nickel, closed at $15.20 a hundred. February crude oil futures down 87 cents, closed at $71.37 per barrel. And the Dow Jones up 170 points, closed at 37,695. And that's the market roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your commissioner, Sid Miller. And remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters. Sold.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Chad Hasty, talking the news. At the start, middle, and end of your drive home, and when news breaks. This is the Chad Hasty Show.
All right. Thank you for tuning in today. Got about a half hour or so left in today's program. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. And you can call in at 1-800-687-0790. So those of you who are paying attention to Iowa, tonight you've got dueling programming. You've got DeSantis versus Haley in the Iowa caucus debate. That probably doesn't matter. It's going to be on CNN. And it's going to begin at, 8 p.m. our time. On Fox News, at the very same time, you have the Trump Town Hall. That's going to be hosted by Brett Baer and Martha McCallum. Will you be watching either one of these? Or do you just not care at the moment? Will you be watching the Trumpster? Will you be watching Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis claw each other's eyes out? The fake's not going to be on stage. It's just going to be DeSantis and Haley, which would have been interesting 3 months ago. About 3 months ago. That would have been an interesting debate. Maybe 4 months ago. That would have been a pretty interesting debate. I don't know if it even matters at this point. I mean, it would take something, I think, major for any of this to shift, any of this to move, and for Trump not to be considered the favorite. I think Trump's probably going to win in Iowa. I think he's going to win in New Hampshire. I know Nikki Haley's trying to make the big push in New Hampshire. But even in her home state of South Carolina, she's underwater in South Carolina. I mean, her final stand may be in New Hampshire, and she's still behind in New Hampshire. Ron DeSantis has practically moved to Iowa and made this his quote-unquote final stand. And again, he's not going to do too well. Unless something shocking happens. And it could. The Iowa caucus, it is a little bit different. A texter saying Trump doing his best not to get my vote. Now, do you mean in the primary? Do you mean in the general? See, Rob and Abilene, hopefully Christie will go away, open up a donut shop. Just a thought. You know the man probably knows how to pick out some really good donuts. I'm just saying. He's a bigger guy. He probably enjoys a good donut. There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. Another texter, Bill from North Carolina, wondering who's in charge of the music. It's spot on. Well, that would be producer Nick Also, the show librarian, Nick, he's in charge of the music. Now, a couple of years ago, when Nick first started, Nick was just using the default music that we had. And then finally I went up to him one day and said, I trust you. Which, some days, let me tell you, that's a very risky thing to say. But I went up to him and I said, Nick, I trust you. You can open it up a little bit, find some music. And I think he's had fun doing that. And today's music's been very, very good. Every now and then I do question where he's going, because sometimes he'll have a theme that he's on. Sometimes he just picks out a song where we both look at each other and go, I don't know about that one. I don't even know why you're playing this one right now. Let's see. Texture Trump, no debate, not going to get my vote. Yeah, again, you've said that. I don't know if that means in the primary or in the general election. That's what I asked. Because those are two very different things. Let me tell you something. If there's a very good chance that Trump's going to be the only one that really matters by the time Texas votes. You might just have to go ahead and you could do a protest vote, I guess, if you really wanted to. But again, I think Trump's going to have this all wrapped up by Super Tuesday. And again, I guess you could have some protest votes on there if you really wanted to. But Trump's probably going to have this all wrapped up by Super Tuesday, which is going to be here before we know it. 806-680-2790. You can send in your thoughts on the text line. Sound off on any of the topics. We had a texter asking, they missed part of the Matt Rose discussion. Don't worry, we'll have that up on KFYO.com, also on the Chad Hasty Show podcast. We'll have that. We're also going to do it as a separate story up on the website where you can access it, doing all that kind of good stuff. Let's see. Rick in Lubbock. I believe Trump is doing so well in the polls is because he's not doing debates. His silence and lack of public interactions haven't given the media anything to attack. Oh, Rick, they're still attacking Trump. They're still going after Trump. Listen, the guy doesn't even have to open his mouth for the media to attack him. I mean, he could just walk by. He could just walk in front of a camera, and you would have some of the news media go crazy. Even some of the more conservative press out there. There's not a lot of conservative press. There's a few, but you've got the writers over at National Review, which have always hated Trump. They've always hated Trump over at National Review. They have a piece out going, seriously, Republicans, you don't have to go with Trump. You don't have to do it. It doesn't. The media and the establishment, they hate the guy so much and with so much passion, he doesn't have to open his mouth for them to find something to fault him for. I mean, he really doesn't. He doesn't have to say a word, and they're still going to find things to fault him for. And look, tonight he's going to do this town hall on Fox News. More people will watch the Trump Fox News town hall than will watch CNN. I mean, that's just a given. There should be no question about that whatsoever. More people will watch Fox News tonight in their town hall with Trump than will watch the CNN debate with Haley and DeSantis. And there will be people just going nuts over what Trump has to say, most likely, from even the first 5 minutes of the town hall. But they're all going to be watching. They're all going to be watching. They're all going to watch and see what Trump has to say because they all know he's going to be the nominee. He's going to be the guy. in 2024. And let me tell you this, secretly, the media loves it. The media execs, they love it that Trump is going to be the nominee in 2024 because more people will pay attention to the news. More people will tune in to CNN. More people will tune in to MSNBC. More people will tune in to Fox News. Why? Because of Trump. We saw that in 2020. We saw it when Trump first ran. That whenever Trump is on screen or whenever Trump is the focal point, eyeballs immediately go on to CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. After Trump was done, after Biden was sworn into office, the ratings for CNN collapsed. They absolutely collapsed. So you know CNN, they can't, the reporters hate them. Even though Jim Acosta became famous for his interactions with Donald Trump. Jim Acosta owes Donald Trump at least a few steak dinners. Because no one would care about it. No one cares about Jim Acosta now. Jim Acosta made his money when Trump was in office. And no one has cared about Jim Acosta since. Texture, when he does speak, especially debates, they go insane. They absolutely do. And they get eyeballs, they get people listening, they get people watching, and they make a ton of money. So let me tell you, the executives, they're happy. They're excited that Trump's going to be the nominee in 2024. They're happy about it. 806-680-2790. If you're on hold, stay where you are. We'll pick you up. We got one more break to take. Let's do that. When we come back, we'll get to you on the phones here on the Chad Hasty Show.
We live Texas, we breathe Texas. The landmarks, the swagger, and the lore make us who we are. We devour the tastes and the smells of our state. You just might say there's something in the air. So do your part to help protect it. Keep your tires at the correct pressure and avoid idling at drive-thrus. Both help reduce emissions. For tips, visit drivecleantexas.org. Drive clean, Texas. Live and breathe it. Brought to you by TxDOT.
Diane from Michigan, a disabled senior citizen trying to get by. Henry from Florida, a veteran fighting to make ends meet. Elena from Arizona, a mother struggling to feed her daughter. Hi, I'm Connie Britton, and I support Feeding America because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year, like Diane, Henry, and Elena. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. All right, so as we probably on Friday, we'll get more into some of the weather that's going to be heading our way. But for our friends up in Amarillo, Nick, let's go through some of the high temperatures that our friends up north in Amarillo are going to be getting. Let's see, tomorrow high of 53. It's going to be partly cloudy and windy in Amarillo. 43 on Friday, 40 on Saturday, 14 degrees on Sunday with a low of 1. Ooh, that's chilly. Monday, a high of 17 degrees and a low of 6. And then they get out of freezing on Tuesday with a warm high of 33 degrees in Amarillo. Don't worry, Lubbock, it's going to get cold here too. Not quite 1 degree, but pretty close. Pretty close to 1 degree. I think one of the days that we're going to be at 7 for the low. That's a heavy duty sweater day for Nick. Let's go to the phones and Ruckus. What's going on, Ruckus?
Okay, so to all the people out there who are talking about Donald Trump losing their vote, I understand. I get it. You know, we get frustrated, but Republicans can't be fickle. We can't say, oh, well, Donald Trump did this, so he doesn't get my vote. You know, we can't be liberals about this election. Do we want 8 years of Biden? Do we want 4 more years of Kamala and Biden and Hunter and all this crap? No, we don't. If Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, we have to fall in line. We've got to get solidly behind him, and we've got to get our asses out to the polls and vote for Donald Trump. That's all I have to say.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ruckus. Very good. Let's see. All right, here we go. This is what we're going to get in Lubbock. Starting Sunday, a high of 25 degrees on Sunday. That's chilly. Low of 7. Monday, a high of 23 with a low of 6. And then Tuesday, it gets warm again, right around 33 degrees for the high on Tuesday. And then we're good for the rest of the week. So it's not going to be like it was, what was it, a couple of years ago when the grid was, it shouldn't be like it was a couple of years ago when we had snowstorms and ice storms, and you had a week where practically the entire state was below freezing. It's going to be cold. But guess what? It's winter. It's going to be cold. At some point, it had to get cold, and we're going to get there. So here's what I suggest. Get yourself some firewood. Get yourself some firewood. For those of you in the Lubbock area, Slide Plant Market, one of our great sponsors, they've got firewood for you. Go get you some firewood. Put on the long johns. Go get you some firewood. Go get some blankets. Just stay nice and warm inside the house. Some people are going to be off on Monday. We're not. We're here. But some people are off on Monday. You just stay home. Wrap yourself up. Stay warm and toasty, and everything will be okay. And don't leave your dogs outside. Bring them in. You know, give them a little shelter, a little heat. And if you've got plants that'll die when it's really cold, you may want to bring those inside too, because it's going to get really cold. Otherwise, everything will be just fine. And there's not, at least for, I think there's a chance of flurries coming in maybe tomorrow night. Yeah, not a big deal. Not a big deal. Elizabeth in Lubbock. Text just coming through now. Good evening, Chad and Nick. Elizabeth in Lubbock, thank you for the good info about switching electricity providers. Nice music selection, Nick. Keep up the good work. Y'all are being too nice to Nick. Have to change this up tomorrow. She says she has no plans to watch either of the political shows this evening. DeSantis and Haley will vibrate the air with noise. It'll be nothing. Trump Town Hall will be predictable. I don't think he has a lot of new ideas right now. Elizabeth, that's the first time I've ever heard Trump called predictable. I don't know. That's a first, I think. Everybody enjoy your evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay warm. God bless you all. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. for the Chad Hasty Show.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.